The Field of 68 Media Network presents Red is the New Orange, a Syracuse basketball podcast.
Vince intercepts a pass, breakaway for the freshman guard, he flies and slams! Aerial assault from Judah Mintz.
Looking to go back door to Bell, they get it to a near corner three, knocks it down! Chris Bell, the sharpshooter.
Bringing you everything you need to know out of the 315.
Up top, Williams surges ahead, up with the right hand and in. A pretty up and under move from Benny Williams to beat his man.
Over to Taylor. He skips into the lane, puts up a floater, and drops in.
Let's get it started with your hosts, Ian Unsworth and Johnny Gadamowitz.
Happy November. Hope you enjoyed your Halloween candy yesterday. Hope you enjoyed the end to the Major League Baseball season. And now we're ready to ring in the college hoop season as we get ready for the Orange's regular season opener on Monday. Hey everyone, what's going on? Another edition, Red is the New Orange, part of the Field of 68 podcast network with Ian Unsworth. I'm Johnny Gadamowitz on hand with you. The Orange are 2 for 2, 2 exhibition games, 2 victories. Last night, or should say Wednesday night, as we post this on Friday morning, a dismantling of Slippery Rock, 96-51. How about that? The Syracuse defense holds Slippery Rock to just 51 points after the first exhibition against Clarion, where that defense was not quite as sharp. They gave up 73 points. Ian, it was a game that started out a little close. Inevitably, mid-first half, Syracuse went on that massive run, which it feels like they always do, against these teams that are not of the same echelon as the Orange, and the rest was kind of history from there.
The game started out close because Syracuse was playing a small lineup, one that Red Autry has been experimenting with. We heard him say after the Clarion exhibition that he wasn't done experimenting with lineups, and he had 2 newcomers in the front court, Donnie Freeman and Jair Davis. They struggled to rebound a little bit, and that's what kept Slippery Rock in it for just a little bit. The Rock had 3 rebounds offensively before Syracuse had an offensive board. That's a bit of a surprising stat. But at first, no one really locked in for 30 to 35 seconds for a full defensive possession. That was the long and short of it. Then Syracuse started to pull away. Chris Bell started shooting the lights out. Bigger guys got into the game, started mixing it up, whether that be Eddie Lampkin, who only played 5 minutes but had an impact, or Peter Mastorovich, who, again, the numbers don't jump out at you, just 3 minutes, or 3 points in 19 minutes. But he definitely had an impact as a presence down low, keeping Slippery Rock out of the paint. And the Rock, to its dismay, shot 3 of 27 from 3. So that's probably why the deficit turned out to be as wide as it was.
Yeah, that was takeaway number 1 from Red Autry in his post-game press conference. The rebounding needs to improve. But again, to your point, Ian, tough to be automatic on the glass when you do indeed roll out those smaller lineups. You had 10 guys play at least 14 minutes, so it continued to be a revolving door from a minute standpoint. And Syracuse shot the ball really well in this game. And that is without Lucas Taylor contributing much, someone who has been billed as a shooter as well. Chris Bell got his, like you alluded to. Elijah Moore made 4 trifectas as well. I think this has the potential to be a really solid 3-point shooting team. Now, if you want to take a negative out of this game, for me, I think it's the turnovers. I'm not as concerned with the rebounding because I think that's something that will improve when the guys just get into the flow of it. We've mentioned how the ACC is not a particularly very big conference in terms of stature. I look at the turnovers, and the larger point there is I'm not so sure if this team has as many guys that are ready to handle the ball outside of Jaquan Carlos and JJ Starling like we billed it as a couple of episodes ago. Because when you look at the second half of this game, and I know obviously a lopsided final score, you don't want to get nitpicky, just an exhibition, but those turnover numbers started to skyrocket a little bit when you saw different guys bringing the ball up the court for Syracuse. I don't know how much I want to see Lucas Taylor handling the ball. We even saw a little Kyle Cuff running the show. Do I expect to see that when the games really start to count?
No.
Absolutely not. But I think the point still does hold some merit too, Ian.
The biggest development over the course of the season will be Elijah Moore and his ability to control the pace and start the offense. At the end of the first half, Syracuse ran a play to get Elijah Moore the ball in a pick and roll situation. And he drove with his right hand, strong side, and got to the baseline, realized he had no angle at the basket, swung it opposite corner for a Chris Bell 3 to wrap up the first half. If you're on Twitter, you probably saw the clip. That was just a piece of Elijah Moore's potential. To realize that I don't have an angle to shoot, the clock's winding down, but I still have enough time to kick it to the opposite corner with a jumping one-handed pass. Really good stuff. But he's a freshman. There are going to be aches and pains. He's not playing against New York City high schoolers anymore. This isn't the overtime elite league. He'll have a 23-year-old checking him every other night now in the ACC. So there are growing pains, but the best part about Elijah Moore is that he wants the ball. He wants to shoot. He wants to be involved. And that is something that you need to have as a freshman, because if you don't have that overwhelming confidence, you're never going to get anywhere. I mean, just look at Justin Taylor last year. The confidence wasn't there as a freshman, even though he had a 25-point game, he just couldn't build off it. So I think Elijah Moore really can build off it, and I don't think the coaching staff's going to get in the way of his development. That's the other thing. We didn't see many quick yanks. We didn't see coaching points being admonished right after a turnover, right after a mistake. Sure, Red Autry and crew got frustrated, but there wasn't any, you're out of the game and you're going to sit on the bench and I'm going to talk to you now, like we saw a couple years back.
From one freshman to another, Donnie Freeman only played 16 minutes. He still found a way to score 11 points amongst those 16 minutes, many of which came from the free throw line. Freeman was 7 of 8 from the stripe, so not only was he getting to the line rather frequently, but he was making his free throws. And we know that the charity stripe has been something that has plagued the Orange over the course of the past couple of years. You want to talk about freshman aggressiveness? You want to talk about wanting the ball? I know it wasn't necessarily in any big spots, but nice to see Donnie Freeman commanding and really demanding the attention that he deserves.
And that's going to be a tough guard for Slippery Rock. 6'10", with the wingspan of arms to knees. There's nobody on Slippery Rock that's equipped to defend Donnie Freeman. So it makes a lot of sense that he can do wherever he wants. He could put a ball over a guy's head if he really wanted to. It'll be tougher in the ACC. But still, there are not many people out there that can stick with Donnie Freeman both inside and out. Besides the Cooper Flags of the world, who are, I mean, that's a 1 in a million basketball player. And Donnie Freeman's right up there.
This was a game that featured a little bit of everything, too. We even saw Eddie Lampkin make a three-pointer.
On a pass, a beautiful hook pass, cross-court from Donnie Freeman.
And of course, Adrian Autry was asked about the Eddie Lampkin three-pointer, and he didn't poo-poo it either. He said, hey, look, if the corner's the best spot for him, that's where this three-pointer came from. If he can stretch the floor and knock it down, I think he said something to the effect of, obviously we don't want him taking 10 a game, but that is an element to his game that I did not think we would be seeing. Do we see it any more this year? I don't know. Maybe not. But it was nice to see that he's got it in him if the situation ever calls for it. But I do want to expand the conversation here a little bit, Ian, and talk about this big man situation. Because with Lampkin, we only saw him play 5 minutes, and I'm sure that was just a coach decision. Naheem McLeod, 14 minutes, did finish with 9 points and 7 rebounds. But we were talking a little bit during the course of the game, and I know you took a little bit of an issue with McLeod just from a spacing standpoint. Doesn't feel like he entirely fits necessarily right now.
Syracuse this year is so versatile on offense. There's so many different things you can do with Lampkin on the floor, with Davis and Freeman playing together up front, even with Mistorovic, who is very mobile and is very good in the pick and roll. McLeod is the odd man out. What can he do offensively besides stand down low and hopefully catch and finish? I mean, the catch and finish rate isn't great. In the first half, there were a couple of missed layups that were point blank over dudes that were 6'7", 6'8". So in terms of the flow of the Syracuse team, I'm not sure what McLeod's place really is. It doesn't make a lot of sense to have him out there to just gunk up the paint. I mean, are you enthralled by that idea? Because I don't see a post game from him.
I don't either. Where I would caution you, though, is that we know the confidence from Red Autry is going to be there. Like, let's not forget, before this guy got hurt last year, he started, what was it, the first 10 to 15 games of the year, right? Like, and
yeah,
sure,
but
maybe he didn't play a ton of minutes.
In crunch time, and we know that.
Right. He didn't play in crunch time, but I don't think the coaching staff is ready to entirely kick him to the curb either. Now, obviously, having Lampkin in the fold makes things a little more interesting, and maybe it is a little bit of a quicker hook. But you're right. He seems very static for a team that has some pace and that likes to run the floor and that likes to move the ball. He does kind of give that odd man out vibe a little, in a very different way than Justin Taylor and Benny Williams were the odd man out last year. It seems like McLeod, it just doesn't really fit and wants to play the style of basketball that Syracuse does not want to play.
It's the style of play, exactly. Like, McLeod is immobile enough to where it's really tough to run a pick and roll with him. And that is JQ Carlos, that is his bread and butter. Carlos will pick and roll you to death. Starling, maybe there's some pick and roll, but he might want to clear out, or he might want to catch it off a screen. Like, you need McLeod to do more than just stand there offensively. Defensively, Eric Devendorf on the broadcast brought up a pretty good point. We saw Syracuse struggle to keep Clarion in front, and there were a couple times defensively when, yeah, I get it, you're playing a D2 school. But Slippery Rock, even though it was down 3 starters, definitely had a bit better level of offensive flow and just an idea of what they were doing. And Slippery Rock got Syracuse in some tough pick-and-roll situations, mainly when McLeod and then Lampkin a little bit as well. I mean, Lampkin played 5 minutes, but they were running a decent amount of pick and roll when those two bigs were on the floor. And there were some times when, with a new team, with some young guys, the switches weren't there. With McLeod and Lampkin, I mean, Lampkin's a bit more mobile, but most of the time you would have to play drop coverage, where the big sits in the paint, the guard trails the pick and roll, and then you give up a 15-foot jumper.
Yep.
So are you okay with that in ACC play against veteran experienced guards? Maybe. But McLeod does not give you many options defensively. He has to be in the paint at all times.
And let's not forget, too, this was a Slippery Rock team that I believe was down their 2 or 3 leading scorers. Yeah. I believe I saw Mike Waters tweet shortly before tip that they had a couple of late scratches. So the fact that
taxi squad.
Yeah, the fact that they were able to even find some success at all in that pick and roll game maybe is reason for concern moving into the regular season. But again, it is a massive Syracuse win, 96-51.
One more thing, Johnny. I want to point on this too.
Hit me. What do you got?
Slippery Rock defensively was backing off Carlos a good amount. Just letting him shoot or letting him think about shooting. I'm not sure if that's going to be a trend, but Carlos did not take a single three-pointer. He only took one shot.
Shot, period. Yeah.
So if teams are going to play the let Jaquan Carlos beat us game, I really don't know what we're going to get. It's going to be a total dice roll going into these big non-conference games, the Texases, the Marylands, because no one's really seen Jaquan Carlos score against elite-level competition yet. Yeah, he did it at Hofstra, but it's a step up. It's a step up.
And again, for a Syracuse team that seems to have plenty of guys that are capable of putting the ball in the hoop, anything you get from Carlos, who has been billed as this facilitator from a scoring standpoint, from my vantage point, that's gravy. But obviously you want him to get involved offensively beyond just being a distributor as well. Ian, before we sign off, we've got 2 exhibition games in the books here. Regular season opener on Monday. Not to put you on the spot here, but I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Give me
You
one.
already set yourself up to put me on the spot.
Give me one real positive takeaway from these two exhibition games that has you going into Lemoyne on Monday feeling good about where this team is at.
That they're really running. When the flow is right, when the offense is there in the half court, Syracuse isn't content to just play half court offense. Everyone's running down the floor. Whether it's Starling, whether it's Bell, whether it's Freeman, Moore, you've got guys beating it to the opposite basket for easy buckets. And you've got guards that always are looking to push the pace with heads up. And even though there were some unsuccessful transition hit-ahead passes in the Slippery Rock game, I was still enthralled by the ability to get it down the floor and then find Chris Bell for three, or the ability to get down the floor and get an easy layup. That's what Syracuse wants to put its hat on, and that's something that needs to stick around for the entirety of the year this year, compared to last year where it kind of happened in the non-conference, and then Syracuse ran into some better competition, and I mean, we really didn't see them run all that much.
Right. I'll go with the shooting. This team shot 47% from three last night on 32 attempts. And I don't see that dipping like crazy. Is it sustainable? No. But this team has guys that can shoot the rock. And I think even despite, albeit against subpar defenses, these first two games just gave me more confidence in that this could be a team that, look, they might go into contests with the mindset of, all right, yeah, we want to beat you 95-92. And we're okay with that. And that's kind of just how we're going to play. Now, if you ask Red Autry, I'm sure he doesn't want to allow 92 points on a night-in, night-out basis. But you got to work with what you have. And I think this Syracuse roster, at least on paper and based on film, what we've seen so far, is very much geared towards a team that can score in bunches.
If Chris Bell makes 4 to 5 threes a game, like, look out. Like, that is an NBA caliber shooter.
Will we see it? We'll find out on Monday when the Orange host Lemoyne, a little Syracuse rivalry, I guess you could say. The Dolphins making the jump to D1 as of recently, so I know a lot of people in the central New York area are looking forward to Monday night for the Orange and the Dolphins. That's going to do it for us. The next time we talk will be on Monday when we get into some more of the nitty-gritty as far as what the regular season opener has in store. But until then, you know where to find us. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're also on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Megaphone, what have you. Drop us a like, drop us a retweet, drop us a subscribe. Really appreciate you guys sticking with us all season long. And now we get to the fun stuff. This has all been, he said, she said type speculation. Okay, what do we think? Come Monday, it is regular season college basketball, and we are so pumped for it. So make sure you keep it locked to the Field of 68 and to Red is the New Orange over the course of the season. But that'll do it for this edition of Red is the New Orange with Ian. I am Johnny saying so long. We will talk to you Monday, season opener.